Welcome, sports fans, to the latest S&M production of the Sunday Night Sports Nerd Show. It is the most absurd 90 minutes of anything goes, smack talk, and a whole lot more. Every Sunday night, the sports nerd joins forces with three charismatic co-hosts who are a select group of sports nerds with attitude that are known in Nerd Nation as the Rampant. We are four of the most loudmouth, smack-talking nerds around, coming at you with some sick rips and rants, which may be just enough to make you pee your pants. So listen up, Nerd Nation. Let's rise and welcome the legend himself. He is the founder, he is the host, and he is the star of the Sports Nerd Show. Coming to you live, straight out of Lakeland, Florida, Scott, the Sports Nerd Right.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Sunday edition again of the Sports Nerds. Joining us tonight are our usual co-host, Mr. Elliot Big E Lamba, Mr. John G. Olson, and our special guest for the first part of the show is going to be Mr. Derek Lofland, going over the 7 rounds of the NFL draft, winners, losers, and his outlook and our feelings and our observations. Derek, again, thank you very much for joining us once again. We had a great time Thursday night, all 4 hours of it, and I was worthless all day Friday. I didn't know what was going on, what day it was, or who I was.
I still went to the gym.
This is just like, this is what I heard before we even went live. Like,
Yes,
I heard, like my old man bones were so tired on Friday. I couldn't do it. Well, Elliot went to the gym. Elliot was good.
I still went to the gym at 5.
I know Elliot kicked butt and kicked names, but this guy up here on top of me, I was so tired.
He was in the coal mine all Thursday night.
I was like the longest time. I usually go to bed at like 5:53 p.m. every night.
What's worse is that I went to the gym. I gave a girl I give a ride to every day that I've been giving a ride to.
Your normal Uber in the morning, yes.
Yeah, my normal Uber ride in the morning. Went back to the gym. And then went to get my IV antibiotic therapy later that morning. So, and then I was worthless the rest of the day.
There you go. So, you know, us old guys can't take it and take too much of that.
Dude, what are you, 55 going on 95? Like,
yeah, something like that, yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like, you're killing me. Like, I'm going to get up there in age, and I'm just going to be like, I don't want to turn out like Scott. Like,
NFL has a draft and you're useless for 3 days.
I know, right?
6 months ago, I would have sounded just like Scott.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, but see, you deserve a heart, man. You deserve a heart because you're kicking butt taking names. Scott, on the other hand, don't know what he's
taking
doing.
Names.
He's just taking names, yeah.
What are you gonna do? You never know.
Hey, before we get started on the football stuff, I just wanted to throw this out there. Outside of one championship that he coached, Doc Rivers is a worthless coach. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, because Joel Embiid is suffering an orbital break in his eye.
Right. Yeah, he's out for at least the first
He
2
was
games
in
of the series, right?
He was in a ball game. He kept them in a ball game where they were up by 30 points with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Your MVP. Why? Why is he still in the game?
It's a very good point, and that was brought up as well on sports channels and ESPN and all that. They were wondering what the hell is he doing still in the freaking game when you're up all these points.
Doc Rivers has always been a mediocre coach, in my opinion. Mediocre.
He's got a lot of bad playoff collapses too, where they've been up 3-1, 3-2 in series, and he's got one title. He was on that top 15 coaches of all time, and on the one hand, he's got over 1,000 wins, and he does have an NBA title. I mean,
it's like Lenny Wilkins.
You're in a closeout game. You're about to face the number 1 seed in the East, and you got your MVP center in the game with a 30-point lead and 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Come on now. Any one of us could have coached that scenario and had Embiid sitting probably the entire fourth quarter.
What have you said about Lenny Watkins, John?
Lenny Wilkins.
Lenny
Wilkins. Like, Lenny Wilkins is the winningest coach in NBA history, and he's also got the most losses in NBA history. So it's like, Yeah, it's like Jameis Winston.
Oh, yeah.
You throw
the
40
long,
touchdowns.
The long-time Cavaliers coach. Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Did you see Jameis Winston throw another interception in some crazy-ass indoor football league thing that he was playing? I don't know.
Jameis Winston, really?
Yeah, he was playing in some, I don't know, some
pickup game somewhere?
Some league. Probably one of those fan.
The dude didn't he just sign with the
yeah, and he threw a pick six, dude.
You sure you weren't watching a Buccaneers game on NFL Rewind or something like that? No. I don't even think contractually they'd allow him to do that.
No. He was playing in this game, and he got picked off at the goal line, and they ran it the other way. It was an indoor game. I know that much. It could have been exhibition for all I know, but still.
Oh, Jameis Winston throws pick six to Tyreek Hill in fan-controlled football.
Yeah, fan-controlled football. That's what I was looking for.
Wow.
A pick six to Tyreek Hill. Was Tyreek Hill on defense?
I don't know. I have enough. I barely have enough time to do everything I need to with the NFL. I don't have time to watch all these side operations.
You mean you don't have any USFL tips for us, or
no? I can't go and justify to my wife that we can't do anything this weekend because I'm going to be glued to fan-controlled football and USFL football. I dig my NFL footballs on Sunday, and I love those.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be totally receptive to that.
Yeah. Derek, straight to divorce court.
Yeah, Derek. Well, he'll at least have to sleep on the couch for at least a night, so that won't happen.
Right.
Grounds of insanity, man. But I just thought I'd drop that in because that was just stupid. If Philly was in line to be a contender for the title, now the earliest he could be back is either game 3 or 4. By then they could be down 0-2. And guess who? Guess who's the leader now? James Harden.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not
Which
good.
means they're gonna be locking down James Harden because Embiid is not on the floor to distract the defense.
Right.
They lose in a big way. And you know what? I don't know, man. If I was the owner, I'd be pissed at what
a broken orbital bone is no joke.
No, it's not.
No joke at all. Plus, he's got a concussion.
Even think he'll be back for game 3 or 4 is amazing.
Yeah, plus he's got a concussion to boot. So I mean, he's probably going to be wearing a face mask when he gets back on the floor by game 3.
Here's the world's smallest violin for Philly and their amazing fans.
Yeah. Philly fans are not our favorite on this show. Never have been, never will be.
Bro, you should have heard them talking smack to the Raptors like after they beat us. It's like, you're supposed to beat us. First of all, our starting point guard wasn't playing. We've been banged up the whole series. We don't have an MVP on our team. And we weren't supposed to win a single game, according to Shaq. We were almost at 3-3 because we lost by that Embiid miracle shot in game 2.
Yep.
Right? I mean, if they win that, it's 2-2. Then we win 3-3. Like, I mean, who knows what could have happened? So,
actually, they were down 3-0, and then they won 2 in a row.
So Philly fans need to relax, and then they're going to get smoked by Miami, right? So let's
their wrath should be more at Doc Rivers than anybody else. Period.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Kyle Lowry, man. Let's go.
He's going to be out too. He's out with a hamstring injury. So
who? Kyle?
Yeah.
Well, I'm cheering for the Heat because now I'm a diehard Heat fan.
Jimmy Smith.
Oh,
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy
Smith. Jimmy Smith.
My name recognition is terrible.
What was that? Michigan?
I thought you were going to say Jimmy Walker, like Dynamite. Like, you know.
What was that? Fat Five, Jimmy Smith?
Yes, it was. You're right. Yeah.
No, that's Jimmy King.
Jimmy King.
No, Jimmy Smith was the wide receiver for the Jaguars.
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith was the receiver for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Him and Keenan
McCardell. There you go.
Yeah.
The wrong sport.
Exactly.
Sport.
Yeah. Sports nerd is fucked up again, but that's okay.
We are all over the place, man.
Part of my charm. Anyway, Derek. So the NFL draft is complete. It's over with. It's done for 2022.
Kansas City's on the clock.
The interesting thing believe it or not, is Mr. Irrelevant is actually somebody we know. I think he's quarterback, and I forget his name off the top of my head.
That's why he's Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, he was a quarterback for what college was it, Derek?
I thought we were going to start at the top of the draft. I didn't realize we were going to start at the
well,
work our way back.
That's something that was in my head when I was talking. So I
thought we were going to talk about relevant parts.
Yeah, I just threw that shit out there.
So we're talking about Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy. Thank you very much. Anyway, Brock Purdy aside,
he's pretty irrelevant.
This year's draft was after the first one or two picks was a crapshoot because nobody knew it was going to happen.
Well, here's
we discussed that. We discussed that Thursday night on the show.
For the first time in history, 9 teams had multiple picks in the first round.
Right.
And 10 teams didn't have any picks in the first round.
Right. A third of the league didn't have any picks in the first round at all. You're right.
F them picks.
My team was one of them, by the way.
So again, it's the first time since 2000 and maybe 2000 since a quarterback wasn't taken in the first 2 rounds.
No, there was a quarterback taken in the first 2 rounds. Pickett was.
Only one quarterback
was taken first.
Yeah.
Only one quarterback for the first time since 2000.
No, since 2013 when
2013.
When EJ Manuel was, because Geno Smith was the second quarterback taken that year, and I think he was the 36, 38th pick, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. But just still a long time ago. That's almost 10 years worth of drafts. And that was an outlier draft. I mean, that it wasn't like, I've been happening a bunch of years before that. So I think that's why this ended up being such a crazy draft, is because there was no franchise quarterbacks that were there. And so people were able to draft needs at wide receiver, at offensive line, and at edge rusher. Those were the strong positions in the draft. And quarterback, running back, tight end, there wasn't much there in the early going, because I don't think a running back was taken in the first round for the first time since, I want to say 2014 or 2015.
Yeah.
But the Jets took the first running back in the second round, John.
Bro, like that killed me, man. Like
Elliot, that's Elliot and I talked about before you came on. He's like,
no, man, like listen, dude, I'm gonna be completely honest, and I'm gonna try to be as like cordial as possible because I freaking hate the Jets like with a passion. But I don't know what Derek's ratings are, but it looks like the Jets had an amazing draft. And I hate it. Pains me to say, like it irks me. Like watching the Patriots implode was great. Loved it. Great draft, Bill. You did a great job, buddy. But the Jets having a good draft. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Jamal, good to see you, buddy. Happy Sunday.
There's a couple of things. I mean, I saw Mel Kiper with his grades, and I think he gave the Patriots like the lowest possible draft grade that he could. And my whole thing is, Mel Kiper doesn't run a team. Mel Kiper doesn't have a scheme. Mel Kiper doesn't have to answer to a GM the next year. And so basically,
he's got Mel Kiper Jr.
He's got amazing hair.
He's got amazing hair. And people flock to these rankings every year, like, oh, did my team win the draft or lose the draft? You don't know until 5 years from now, once these guys have to re-sign contract. And what they'll knock Bill on is they'll say, well, we have this guy ranked 40th and you drafted him 28th. Well, he doesn't get to pick 40th. He has 28 and 58. And so if he's got a guy that he knows isn't going to make it back there, and he thinks for his roster, he needs to reach at 28 and he can get a guy that fits his scheme at 58, he's going to do that. And then, Mel Kiper is going to sit there and hit out, just bash him for his bad draft. He got the player he wanted.
Derek, didn't we say on draft night that's a typical Belichick pick, because he takes somebody that nobody's heard of, and watch, this guy's going to be a freaking all-pro.
Right.
Somewhere down the line.
Yeah. There's all kinds of guys in the league that, I mean, you could build one of the greatest football teams of all time with guys that came from small schools, like Jerry Rice, like Walter Payton, Brett Favre, Josh Allen. I mean, there are tons of guys that don't play in the Power 5 schools that every year we sit there and wonder how they get drafted above guys from Alabama and Georgia.
Right.
And then 5 years from now, Josh Allen is signing a record contract, and these guys.
Stephon Diggs is from Maryland, right? Like, it's like,
yeah. I mean, you don't know. And look at the Great Wall of Dallas. That line was built with guys from schools that nobody had heard of. So I mean, the Jets, I think, were the big winners in this draft, because I think all three of those first round picks,
right,
if any one of them individually would have gone in the top 10, no one would have been surprised at that. And they didn't have to trade up to acquire any of them other than Johnson at the third one. So they didn't really have to give up a ton of draft capital. And then to get a starting running back in the second round to boot after doing all that, they might have 4 starters.
But okay, so I'll ask you this with the Jets. Like they're gonna have, like, they got Michael Carter already. So Breece Hall is like a bell cow, man. Like he's the dude. So what are they gonna do? Just split carries with 2 studs? Like that's gonna do the Cleveland thing? Or?
Hey, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about it sucks to be a Michael Carter owner now.
Yeah,
dude, because this guy's off the chain, apparently. I mean, you know how much college ball I watch, but all the highlights I've seen, this dude is like unstoppable. Like,
yeah, he could definitely be a 3-down back at the NFL level. And if he's getting 20, 25 carries, that's not going to leave much for Carter. But running backs get hurt, and running backs struggle in their rookie year because they got to learn pass protection. So
Carter got hurt last season.
Yeah,
and he missed some time. So who knows? Carter might just fall back to what he was doing before.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, I don't think the Jets are going to win more than 6 games this year. I don't care what they did in that draft. I mean, Buffalo is still the best team in that division. I trust New England over the Jets still. And Miami, I think, is further ahead of them too. I mean, the whole question is whether Zach Wilson can make the jump in his second year. If Zach Wilson can make the jump, yeah, they might win 8-9 games somewhere in there. But if he's, what he was last year or not much better, this doesn't change anything with them. They're the 4th team in the division.
Here's the thing. They picked up some good building blocks for the future. Okay. And if Zach Wilson turns out to fizzle this year, next year's draft class for quarterbacks is much better than this year's.
Right.
A lot better than this year's.
And I guess that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping if
Zach Wilson is on the clock right now, basically. 2022 is on the clock time for Zach Wilson.
I hope he has a semi-decent year, so they don't do anything, and then he has a shitty year the next year. Like, that's what I want.
No bias on this show. No bias at all.
I hate, the Patriots are number 1 detested, but the Jets are very close second. Like, they're just
Draft ended yesterday, Jamal.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah, man, crazy. Oh,
today is the day for the undrafted free agents to sign. Is what today is, pretty much.
Which I always love, because the draft is done, and 10 minutes later, these undrafted free agents are signing. And it's like, what? You didn't talk to anybody at all while this was going on. You're just able
the Bills signed a guy that they had on their 30 visit, and they signed him as an undrafted. So it's like, wow, like that. They're licking their chops when they get a guy that they got to interview. But anyways, I won't bore you with Bills propaganda at all. I promise.
We can't go a whole entire show without Bill's propaganda, John. I mean, come on. It's like,
bro,
that's sacrilege. Come on.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, on Friday when the Jets took the running back, the first thing I thought about was John. We need to get this guy.
There was the 3 guys that, like, again, I know nothing about college ball. I just go from what's the rumors, and I watch some highlights. So there was the Breece Hall, there was the Kenneth Walker kid, and then James Cook. And these were the guys, the 3 running backs that apparently we should be targeting as the Bills fans. They got 1 out of 3. So I'm just like, okay, cool. Hey, I like his brother. His brother's awesome. I'm a big fan of his brother. So if he's like a half of what his brother is, great. Cool. I don't know. What do you guys think of James Cook? I know nothing about him. He looked really high when he got drafted.
Either, actually, to be honest with you.
I think it's a great situation for James Cook, because he's going into play on one of the best offenses in the NFL, and you got Singletary there, so he's not going to be asked to carry the load. You go and put him on the Houston Texans and ask him to be the starting running back, that might not look as good. So I think it's a good situation and a good fit. And Buffalo doesn't need a 1,500-yard rusher with 15 touchdowns.
No.
Josh Allen runs a ton. They have a great passing game. They need the running game to bring balance to the offense, and I think you can do that with Singletary in the lead and Cook. I think what this tells you is that Zach Moss, they've given up on Zach Moss.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
he's either a camp body, or he's going to fill out the back end of the roster. He's just going to get cut altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Derek, your top 5 for the draft. Who'd you take with the top 5?
Well, we talked about the Jets already. I really liked what Atlanta did. I think Drake London with that 8th pick. I think that that gives them a nice target aside of Kyle Pitts and 2 big targets that can be good in the red zone. And then they got Arnold Abitike in the 2nd round, just a freakish athletic edge rusher that has a 38-inch vertical. And then they had a Troy Anderson, who's another fast linebacker, 4'4", 240. But what I really loved is they were able to draft the quarterback out of Cincinnati, Riddler, in the 3rd round. So I think if they had gotten him in the 2nd round, I don't think people would have really questioned that too much. So they have Marcus Mariota. He can be the veteran there. And they have Ritter if Mariota gets hurt or doesn't work out. And like he was saying before, it's a really deep 1st-round draft. If neither of them shows them anything, they're not going to say we can't take a quarterback high in the 2023 draft because we have Ritter.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they set themselves up very well. Baltimore, I liked. I thought
Baltimore did really well, yeah.
Baltimore did well.
Piss me off. Oh, they had such a good draft. Pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Hamilton, a lot of people thought he was going to go in the top 5, and he had a bad 40 time, and he did slide out of the top 10. But I thought that was a real value at 14. He could be a Pro Bowl starter as a rookie. I think that's very possible. Tyler Linderman at center. I mean, that's a guy that could start. David Ajabo would have been a top 15 pick if he hadn't torn his Achilles. And there are people that are saying he's going to be ready to play in the 2nd half of the year. Travis Jones, big run stopper. Daniel Falel, the massive offensive lineman from Minnesota. You have 5 players that could develop into starters in the next 3 years or be major contributors on the team. So I think Baltimore did a fantastic job. They did have to trade Hollywood in order to make this draft happen, but Hollywood really hasn't fit in there that well. He's shown some signs that he's a good deep threat, but for what Baltimore does, they haven't been able to utilize him properly.
And Marquis Johnson, as we were talking about, and he basically said that this trade to the Cardinals was in the works for a while. It wasn't just something that happened overnight. I mean, and he's been practicing with what's his face? Oh God, my name recognition is terrible.
The little guy, Murray?
the little guy from Arizona. He's been doing Kyler Murray. Thank you. He's been doing workouts with Kyler Murray in the offseason.
The tattoo of the NFL.
Yes, the tattoo of the NFL. The plane. Anyway, yes, they've been.
You just a Fantasy Island reference just now?
Yes, we did just do a Fantasy Island reference. Yes, welcome to Fantasy Island.
Very nice. Very nice.
But the trade was not something that just happened. It was in the works for a while. So it may have been a surprise to Jackson, but it wasn't a surprise to Hollywood at all. Period.
Well, Hollywood requested the trade in January.
Yes.
That's what I read.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So and they did a very good job of keeping it under wraps, which I think helped allow them to move him.
Hey, Clarky.
Because
Hi, Clarky.
When you get some of these guys that demand a trade right away, it destroys their value because people know that they want out of there.
Right.
And then they want to lowball the team, and Baltimore might not want to give him up. He kept his mouth shut and ended up in a good spot because Kyler Murray throws a pretty nice deep ball.
Well, plus they were college teammates too, as Clarky mentioned. They were college teammates. So.
Hey, speaking of Clarky, he was really WTFing the Patriots for that first.
Bro, like I gotta cut it short because I gotta take off. But I just would like to know, Derek, did the Patriots make your top 5 horrible drafts of the year, or did you have one or no?
I listed 5 teams. I'm not gonna list New England there. New England has a good track record of adding what they need in the draft. And I mean, the receiver they got runs a 4.29 40. Thornton, I think it is, and I mean, I understand the pundits don't like it because it didn't match their draft board, but you got a head coach that's missed the playoffs since he got there. His first year in 2000, 2002, and then 2020. I mean, I trust what Belichick's doing there. I don't, and they had a great draft last year. I don't know what people are so upset about because.
Well, Belichick has been criticized and has been mentioned as has gotten worse as a GM over the years as opposed to a head coach. So who knows? I mean, he's losing it as he gets older. Who knows?
Real quick, Derek, were you happy with the Christian Watson pick of the Green Bay Packers?
I absolutely was. Green Bay was the next winner I was going to have on my list because I think they maneuvered the draft very well. That run on receivers happened between 10 and 18, I think it was, and they could have tried to trade up and surrendered both their first round picks in order to get one wide receiver, and the value wouldn't have been there. But instead, they were not good at run defense last year. They allowed 4.7 yards per carry to running back, so they added two guys in the interior, and Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, and that's going to shore up the run defense. And Watson was a very fine receiver at North Dakota State. And then they got Romeo Doubs in the fourth round, and he's a productive receiver. So I think they did what they wanted. They are very comfortable developing receivers in the second, third, and fourth round, and they hit two of them there. Now, are these guys going to work out? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that Watson's a slam dunk player, but you put a wide receiver with some talent next to Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to help.
Yeah. Well, he was the best available at that pick, basically.
Yeah, and I'm glad they
when did they get him?
34.
What was it? Second round. Right.
Yeah. And that's why I think they did a good job to trade up, because that run at receiver had happened, and they couldn't have sat there at 50 and gotten the guys that they wanted. And this was a guy that was kind of rumored to be that the Packers were interested in him.
Hey, John, you want to call collusion because the Giants traded their pick to the Jets for them to get Breece Hall.
Yeah, I know. It's really suspect. Like I get it, it's a business, but I mean, those guys should have a little bit of a backbone, you know? Like the whole reason they even have jobs now is because of Buffalo. Like, wow.
Yeah, let me just real quick. Ron's in the green room. Should I bring him up now?
If he wants to.
Yeah, No, he's shaking his head no. Never mind.
Oh, Ron, yeah. Well, it's good because I'll flip out in a bit. I got to take off here in like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, Ron's shaking his head no. I love it.
I expect this to be pro Toronto Maple Leafs and Edmonton Oilers propaganda from Ron.
Yes.
Later when I'm not here, I'll watch the replay to make sure that he puts the ribbon on it. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yes.
Hey, Toronto
Bolts and Lightning, Bolts and the Leafs in first round, John. Gonna be a good series.
Cares. Cares. I'm all about Edmonton, bro. Edmonton and LA. Let's go. Come on, let's get it.
Edmonton and LA.
Yeah, Edmonton and LA. Game 1 tomorrow, buddy. Let's go. Let's get it.
All right, that's the matchup. Okay,
That's the matchup. Yeah, man.
So you don't care about the Leafs and the Bolts series?
I don't care, dude. Like, it's so weird. I'm a Leafs fan, but it's like I don't live there anymore, and Toronto pisses me off. Like, just going there, I get pissed off. Like, I'm like, it's the New York of Canada, right? It's like, Elliot, what's it like going back to New York? You deal with traffic, you're just mad. You're just like, oh, I freaking hate it. Like, oh my gosh, you guys don't know how to drive. Every time I go to Toronto, I last for about a day, and then I'm just ready to rage and I got to get out of here before I go postal somewhere.
That's why I never owned a car until I moved out of New York.
Right. Yeah. Try find a parking spot in Manhattan. Like, forget it.
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx, yeah. Well, you can double park, and then you got the cops that come over, and you're getting a ticket.
Yeah, but then you get the ticket in the morning if you don't do the alternate side of the street parking. Which there is nothing available because everybody's already moved their car to the other side of the street.
Hate big cities. Hate them. I'm so done. 45 years of my life living in these damn things. I'm done. I'm finished. Forget it. Yep. Going out to the country. And with that, I'm actually driving out to the country right now. So,
all right. Good luck with the house search, John.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Give me the video too when you're done. Hey,
I will. Absolutely. I will send it to you.
Hearts.
Yes.
All right.
Hearts.
Later.
See you, John. Too freaking funny. Let me change this because I don't like that other view. Anyway, all right. You had all right. So Green Bay at number 3. Who's number 4, Derek?
Kansas City, I like what they did. Trent McDuffie, 21st pick, that gives them a good defensive back. George Karlaftis at number 30 was one of the better pass rushers in the draft, and they did similar to what Green Bay did. They waited to the second round to get their receiver and got Sky Moore out of West Virginia. And again, he's a small school guy, but you pair him with Patrick Mahomes, and that's a potential for a really good fit. And then they also got Brian Cook, number 62 overall, and then the Wisconsin linebacker Leo Chenal, number 103. I think all 5 of these guys have the potential to either be starters or contributors within the next couple of years. So I think Kansas City did what they needed to do. And full disclosure, it's easier to run a good draft when you trade your best wide receiver and not a whole bunch of picks. I mean, if you do what Chicago did, where you trade up to get Justin Fields last year and you have no players, it's hard to be a winner in this draft when you only got a couple
trade
picks.
Khalil Mack and don't even have a first round pick.
So exactly. So who knows what Kansas City's going to do? Tyreek Hill, that's huge production to replace. That's been one of the best vertical threats in the NFL over the last 15, 20 years.
And there's no arguing that, but the fact is that Kansas City's biggest problem in recent years has been defense.
Yep. And they took the same route that Green Bay did, where this was such a deep defensive draft and there were such good players from the run that happened on wide receivers early on that they took advantage of the players that were there. And I think both teams, that's why you pay Mahomes and Rodgers all that money, so that you can use your first round picks on defense and take players from smaller schools later on, or players that aren't as highly heralded, and put together a good team. You shouldn't need to put first round picks around a Hall of Fame quarterback to have him do well in the NFL. And then the last team, Tennessee. I actually thought Tennessee did a really good job because they had A.J. Brown.
I was going to say, even though they traded away A.J. Brown, you still think they had a good draft.
I think they had a good draft.
The guy they picked, he's like a carbon copy of A.J. Brown.
Yeah, that's true. It is. He is, yeah.
Yep. And they didn't want to pay A.J. Brown 4 years, $100 million, 57 guaranteed, and he missed 4 starts in 2020 and 4 starts in 2021. I'm not going to say he's injury prone, but he's missed games because of injury.
I think they offered him $16 million a year before he got traded, and now Philly's paying him $25 million a year with, like you said, $57 million.
That's what we discussed it on the show on Thursday night, is the fact that the reason why they're trading A.J. Brown is because they didn't want to pay him, and they got a carbon copy of him. They can put him on a rookie contract and save money on the cap, which is. But
here's the thing: how
strategy.
good is A.J. Brown going to be with Jalen Hurts?
Depends on what he progresses to as a
depends on how Jalen Hurts progresses over last year.
Because Tyreek Hill is still going to be in question with Tua as quarterback.
Correct.
Sure.
Because of lack of an arm. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's not a lock.
No.
It's not a lock.
You can say anything you want about Tannehill, but Tannehill's very good in play action, and he's very good on the deep throw.
And he's accurate. He
is. Yes.
And Hurts is not.
Well, and he can't make the reads yet either. I remember that Tampa game where they showed the wide receiver, I can't remember which one it was, running down the sideline, and he was wide open by a mile down there, and Hurts just didn't see him. He wasn't even looking that way.
Shades of Baker Mayfield, no BJ, right?
Part of it is because he's
you said it, I didn't.
I know, right?
Part of it is because he's looking for a running lane to hit if he can't find a receiver. Or if he's
going to run first every time. Is that what he's doing, Elliot?
I think he's in the position where he just is not confident with his pocket game.
Okay.
Well, and look at Lamar Jackson. If you look at him the first year when he took over for Joe Flacco and played those last 9 games versus where he was last year before he got hurt, he has made strides in that area. And so I think Hurts can make strides in that area. And one of the ways that you get him to make strides is you bring in A.J. Brown and give him someone that he has confidence to look at downfield. I mean, the problem last year, too, is they had Devontae Smith, and they really didn't have anybody else at wide receiver. So if you're not polished as a deep thrower and you don't have the weapons that you trust down there, you're going to go with what you do trust, which is your legs. So, I mean, I think they needed needed to make this move. But if Hurts doesn't take the jump this year, they've given him everything he needs. They're going to find a quarterback next year.
Yeah, and the pundits on Friday basically said that Jalen Hurts is now on the clock.
Yeah.
For 2022.
Yep.
If he doesn't perform, guess what? The draft class next year will have quarterbacks available.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these guys, Zach Wilson's another one.
Yep.
Like I mentioned earlier. These guys are now, I mean, look at the Giants. They've already parted ways with Daniel Jones.
They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, right?
But unless he lights it up and blows the house out, Daniel Jones is done in New York because the Giants know they can get a quarterback next year.
And there's a quarterback in Alabama who's slated to be number 1 overall pick next year. Yep. So.
And the other thing is the Eagles added defense. They added Jordan Davis in the middle. They added Nakobe Dean to strengthen the defense. Cam Jurgens going to be a good center there. So they went all in. I mean, even though they traded for A.J. Brown and gave the Titans that pick, I mean, they still picked up a lot of pieces too. I mean, they're going to be expected to compete with the Cowboys. And then getting back to the Titans, the one thing I like they did is Malik Willis. If he had gone 6 to the Panthers,
yes,
I think most people would have been like, that's a great move. And they got him in the 3rd round.
Yes, they did.
I think the Titans got a deal. I think they got a steal, actually.
I think Malik Willis is the heir apparent to Ryan Tannehill, and I think he will do well if he can learn how to read defenses and stay in and learn how to throw from the pocket, because he's got great running skills. He can make plays on the run, but can he be a pocket passer, and can he be his accuracy is in question, and the fact that he can he get the job done.
Yeah, and don't forget.
And you know what? Ryan Tannehill may be a journeyman quarterback considered a journeyman quarterback in the NFL, but he's a great teacher. And Willis can learn a lot from Tannehill.
And that's why I think Treylon Burks
be that pocket quarterback.
That's why I think Burks was a good pickup after they traded A.J. Brown for that pick.
Yep.
Okay. And don't forget, they got Robert Woods too.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So it's not like they're not going to have an experienced receiver there.
Right.
To help out with both Tannehill and Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not a tough division.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
No.
Tennessee
can actually still compete in that division.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, even though Malik Willis, his checking account isn't going to fall in that far because he got paid a lot more money, it's a good fit for him. He's under no pressure to start this year. I mean, if Tannehill starts 17 games this year, nobody's going to say Willis can't play. He can sit there and work on his mechanics. He can sit there and learn how to watch film, learn how to not take as many sacks, and be in a good position to be the starter in 2023 or 2024, because Tennessee isn't going to be drafting high enough next year to get one of those top quarterbacks.
Correct.
That are going to be in that draft. And so it's a good situation all around. And it gives him a chance to succeed.
He's perfectly aligned because, again, like you said, he can sit back and knowing that in a year or two, Tannehill won't be there anymore. And if he does what he needs to do, then that's his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Next question is, all right, now you got your bottom 5. What's your bottom 5?
All right. I really didn't like Arizona's draft. I know some people did because they got Marquise Brown. But what I don't like about it is they picked up his options. So basically, Kyler Murray and him are going to be on the same contract timeline. And Kyler Murray doesn't look like he's close to signing a long-term contract there. And so what that means is they can only franchise one out of the 2 of them.
Right.
And so is it worth trading the 23rd pick in the draft to get a 2-year rental on Hollywood Brown? And then they added Trey McBride in the 2nd round, who's a tight end, and he's very good, but they re-signed Zach Ertz. So 5 of their 8 picks were in the 6th round or later. And I think you look at that draft, does that get them above Los Angeles? Does that get them a win in the first round of the play, further than the wild card round? I don't think it does.
No, I don't think so.
I think the only place that they are a lock is to finish ahead of Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Because San Francisco's not going to be terrible.
No.
Debo wind up coming back. It's a good chance Jimmy G will stay, and I think he should stay one more year because right now his value is not out there with that shoulder surgery. Plus, he can give Jimmy G he can give Lance one more good year of learning before throwing him into the fray. Okay. And then on top of that, Jimmy G has an opportunity to increase his value for next season. And then the 49ers can get what he might be worth at that time. Because right now, they're not
Debo's
get
situation, Derek. Do you think Debo stays in San Francisco next season?
I don't think he has much of a choice. I mean, if he holds out, and misses regular season games, if he does like a Le'Veon Bell move, he's not going to accrue service for the year, and he needs to get to free agency so he can sign a big contract. So I mean, it just depends on who wants to blink first there. But my thought is he goes and puts up another good year, and then and he's a second round pick. He doesn't have the option year. Then he's going to be in a position to do some good things, either with the franchise tag or in free agency.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And the thing is that the 49ers weren't getting any legitimate offers for him.
Well, I don't think anybody thought they were legitimately going to move him. So why are you going to go and offer anything for a player that's not on the market?
Again, and John Lynch made that perfectly clear. We're not in any way, shape, or form looking to trade Debo Samuel.
All right. And number 4?
For the losers on the number 2, Derek was the Houston. Derek Stingley, I thought that was a reach. I mean, and Sauce Gardner to me was the best corner in the draft. And so if they were going to go corner, I would have taken Sauce. I like Stingley. He looked like one of the best corners in the country as a freshman, but was just too injured after that. And then I thought they had a good pick with Kenyon Green. I like that one. But then Jalen Petrie, that was a redundant pick to me. You use the 3rd pick in the draft on a defensive back, and then right away in the 2nd round, you go back to another defensive back. John Mechie III was their wide receiver they took in the 3rd round, and he's coming off an ACL tear, and I don't really know if that helps the wide receiver room that much this year. It might be a good pick for a couple years down the road. Christian Harris was good at the linebacker spot. I thought they got a value there, but I could see Stingley being hurt, in that rookie contract, and Sauce Gardner being an all-pro, and then it's like, why didn't you do the obvious thing? So I wasn't necessarily all in on what Houston did there.
Yep.
Dallas, I thought was a team that was a loser with Tyler Smith. I mean, what was that tweet? A penalty waiting to happen.
Hey, I think Ken is not here tonight because he's sick from the Dallas pick. I think he's still suffering indigestion from that draft.
I mean, yeah, when your 1st round pick is being described on Twitter as a penalty waiting to happen.
Yes, I saw that. I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
hilarious.
And then South Alabama wide receiver Jalen Tolbert. That's who's going to replace Amari Cooper. I mean, I guess Michael Gallup's going to replace him, and then Tolbert will replace Gallup. But
was it that guy Strange that they drafted, or who was it that drafted Strange?
Let me look. I'll have to look
because
at that.
Somebody had mentioned that was a strange pick.
Keep going. I just wait for just a second. I'll be right back.
Cole Strange, that was the Patriots. That was the 29th overpick by the Patriots.
That's the one that everybody. Yeah,
that's the one that everybody was hammering Bill for. All right, so then also they took Sam Williams, who had some legal issues while he was in college. He was cleared of them, but was suspended for the start of the 2020 season while those were being worked out, and he's not very good against the run. I just look at the offseason they had where they lost players in free agency. They traded Cooper away, and then you look at what they retooled with in this draft. This doesn't look like a team that is going to go further in the playoffs than they did last year. They look like the Eagles got closer to them, I think, after this draft was done.
Yeah, and the thing is that, again, I firmly believe this, as long as Jerry Jones is running that team's not going anywhere. That team was successful 30 years ago because of Jimmy Johnson, not because of Jerry Jones.
Well, and that team was built before the salary cap came into play. I mean, I think the first year of the salary cap was 94. And so they had done the Herschel Walker trade already and made all those big moves before that. And really, like Deion Sanders would never hit free agency the way he did back then. I mean, same thing. Reggie White would have hit free agency the same way he did back then. I mean, totally different ball game, totally different finance.
Hey, Clarky, just a correction. Strange did get drafted in the first round.
He did. He did.
He did get picked in the first round.
Yeah.
You mean the number one pick? Probably not.
Yeah. All right.
And then my next team that I was a little confused, that was Jacksonville, actually. I thought they had a good start to the draft. It wasn't any problems. Yeah, and Lloyd. But my issue is, like, Trevor Lawrence was a disappointment last year, and I don't really see anything that they added in this draft that's going to help him on offense. Now, I know they signed Christian Kirk, and I know that Travis.
You mean they overpaid for Christian Kirk?
Overpaid for Christian Kirk, and
he's the one that started this whole wide receiver mess with that contract.
Yep. But all they really added on offense was Luke Fortner, the center, in the second round, and then I think they added Snoop Connor at running back with the 154th pick. So I mean, as much as I like the defensive picks, and I think Jacksonville is going to be a much better defense, and those were two really good players. Trevor Lawrence has a lot to prove in his second year. He did not look good last year, and I think he's getting a pass for it because of Urban Meyer and everything that happened. But
they don't have a good offensive line at this point either, do they?
No, not particularly.
No.
I think Pro Football Focus ranked them. I can't remember exactly where. I think it was in the bottom 10. I mean, they're a bad roster. They're the worst overall roster in the league by I think, a sizable margin.
Which means they'll be picking first next year, too.
I would be surprised if they win more than 5 games next year. I really would.
Well, again, you know what? They got a good coach. Doug Peterson's going to be a much bigger upgrade than what they had and his staff. So I expect the Jags to be a little bit better, but I don't expect them to contend for a playoff spot. Even though they play in the worst division in the NFL, I don't think they're going to contend for a playoff spot. No,
I don't think so either. And then the last team I thought I had some questions about was New Orleans, because I don't get why you make that that trade in the draft beforehand to get 2 first-round picks in this draft. And they got Chris Olave and they got Trevor Penning. But now they have no first-round picks next year in that deep quarterback draft that we're talking about, and they don't have any first-round picks to go and get anybody.
Just in case Jameis Winston falls back on his old habits and throws 30 and starts throwing,
and starts throwing interceptions like he did in the fan control league.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I to be honest, to be upfront, I have a lot of hope for Jameis Winston because he was drafted. He went to FSU number 1, which is my number 2 college school. And he was drafted by the Buccaneers. And so I got a soft spot for Jameis Winston a little bit. I hope he does well. He had LASIK surgery in the offseason before last. And a lot of his issues, I think, had to do with his eyesight, was why he was throwing picks, so many picks in the NFL. So hopefully the LASIK surgery. And before he got
last night.
And before he got injured, he was having a good season. He wasn't having a bad season at all with the Saints before he got injured. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was a decent season. So, yeah, I mean,
The problem I had, though, is like you look at his numbers, 14 touchdowns and 3 picks, and you're like, wow, that was off to a good start. He had that outlier game against the Packers with 5 touchdowns.
Right.
If you go and look at the other 6 games, he had 9 touchdown passes in 6 games and 3 interceptions, and they were not asking him to do much. He was only averaging about 167 yards passing per game, which probably is a little bit low because I think he got hurt in the middle of that last game, and so that would have drug it down a little bit. But I'm not saying he did horrible last year, and I think it was the good move to bring him back. But what I question is, he's not a slam dunk to be your starter there for the next 5 years.
He's not.
Why do you trade all those draft picks to not get a quarterback, and now you can't get one next year either?
Well, I can give you an answer. I can give you an answer to that because Sean Payton's no longer the head coach. Sean Payton probably wouldn't have made that deal.
Probably not. And Alvin Kamara's status is up in the air because of the Vegas legal trouble he had.
So is Mike? Is it Michael Clayton? I think his name is. I forget his name. The wide receiver, Michael Thomas. Excuse me. Michael Thomas is up in the air as well because he's coming off an injury season as well. So his status is up in the air too as far as his production for this season coming up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and they were having issues with him in the locker room. Him and Peyton weren't seeing eye to eye. And I mean, you look at that year where he set the record for reception this season with 149. He followed that up with 40 receptions for 438 yards and didn't score a touchdown. And then last year he didn't play at all. So he started 5 games and played 7 in the last 2 years, and he hasn't scored a touchdown since 2019.
Right.
There's a lot of question marks on that New Orleans offense. Right. And then with Sean Payton not being there and Dennis Allen having a defensive background, I mean, I don't know. They got some good players, but I think they boxed themselves for trying to get a quarterback for the Patriots.
And Dennis Allen didn't exactly burn up the league as a head coach in his previous attempts either. He
didn't, but that was a really unfair stint for him because that's when Al Davis got kind of crazy his last couple of years in Oakland, and he basically was signing free agents and cutting them, and they were playing with 49% of their cap in dead money because of D'Angelo Hall and a number of bad contract signings. No coach in the league is going to be able to win with 49% of their cap tied up in dead money.
I'm hearing that New Orleans is making a serious pitch to Tyrann.
I heard that too. I saw that on Twitter today.
And again, that just comes from the fact that you have a defense first minded coach.
Well, none of that, but they didn't get a shutdown corner or safety in the draft, so they have to try and get one in free agency. And Tyrann Mathieu is probably the best out there right at this point.
But that's not going to matter if you ain't got an offense.
Correct. Something I wanted to bring up that I saw today as well. We were talking about Deebo Samuel. You guys saw the tweet that OBJ sent out about Deebo Samuel and his situation in San Francisco.
And he retracted it.
Deebo came back today. He says, I guess he likes being shit on because he's made his entire career off of one catch. That was Deebo talking to OBJ. And I got to thinking about that, and he's right. No, OBJ has been pumped up because of one catch his entire career. Come on.
No, absolutely
OBJ's career would have been fine if he didn't play with Baker Mayfield, first of all.
Okay. I agree. I'm with you on that. I'm totally agreeing with you on that.
He would have been. He was on his way to being a consideration for MVP in the Super Bowl before he tore his freaking knee up.
Yep.
Look at his first 3 years in New York. 1,305 yards, 1,450, 1,367, 12 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. Made the Pro Bowl every year with Eli Manning on the downside of his career.
Yeah.
Well, Eli was a better quarterback than Baker, so we won't go there.
He was fantastic in New York for those 3 years.
And he was fantastic with the Rams once he went to them. I mean, he's probably part of the reason that the Rams made it that far down the stretch.
Yeah, because otherwise they wouldn't have had Wood. They didn't have Wood because he tore his
exactly
ACL,
and that totally opened it up for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
When people had to worry about OBJ.
I just thought it was funny that
Debo. A great Super Bowl.
I just thought it was funny that Debo brought that up today in Twitter. It was funny.
So yeah, I think Debo's wrong. But I understand he's salty right now because he's not getting what he wants. And that's usually the case with some people.
And Odell Beckham, I think, is overvalued in the league because when you have a start like that to your career and you have that much exposure, with that catch, I mean, he gets talked about as one of the best receivers, in the league. I feel like he's got that reputation for him, but he hasn't been that guy for a long time due to injuries, due to playing in Cleveland in a bad scheme fit and with a subpar quarterback. And by the time he turned things around with the Rams last year, been a long time since he played football. I mean, he's not going into the Hall of Fame with anything that he did, but he's more than one catch.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the catch, I mean, it was billed as one of the greatest catches of all time in NFL history. I get that. But you know what? Derek ran off all the stats that you need to know. Okay? But in the end, it was injuries, a sour relationship in New York.
And a boat ride with Bieber.
to go to Cleveland. A boat ride, yeah, that pretty much derailed after that. I mean, there were definitely factors that didn't do him any favors after that boat ride, okay? And then he wound up in Cleveland with a quarterback that couldn't hit the side of a barn if all that was in front of him was the barn, okay? But then he went, like I said, he went to the Rams, and part of his success probably was because Cooper was on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay? And that Robert Woods wasn't there. But he filled in admirably. And like I said, he was on pace to at least be considered an MVP in that Super Bowl the way he played in that first half.
Yeah.
You know who he kind of reminds me of is Andre Rison. I think he's
Moon Rising. Oh, man.
Yep. Because Andre Rison had a really good start to his career, too. Signed in Cleveland, just like OBJ, and that didn't work out for him. But then he got signed by the Packers when Robert Brooks went down with injury and helped the team win a Super Bowl at the end like that, and then kind of bounced around a little bit after that, and definitely was on a whole. There was a point where a lot of people thought that Jerry Rice was the best receiver, and then it was kind of Sterling Sharp or Andre Rison, or he was kind of in that discussion among those top 3 or 4 names. Chris Carter.
Yep.
And then Left Eye burned his house down.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna bring Ron in if he's ready. Let me check and see if he's ready. I'm gonna bring him in. He's ready. He's got his thumb up, so I'm gonna bring him in. Mr. Ron Gallo, hockey guru.
Well, hello, gentlemen.
How you doing, Ron? Good to see you.
It's 5 months in the making. It's 5 months in the making, but Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I haven't been here since then.
That's
I
true.
don't think we've had you on since last year's playoffs.
Yeah, no, I've been doing more of the stuff you see behind me. That's
the biking and then do the real estate
and selling houses, right? And selling homes.
Yeah,
good.
Selling homes.
It's good to have Derek and Ron. It's a bit of a reunion because you guys were on the old show that Elliot and I were on. We won't mention the host name, but you guys.
Sports World Radio, by the way.
Yeah, Sports World Radio, and it's good to have reunions of sorts this week. To have both Derek and Ron on the show. Ron,
that's what happens when the draft and hockey playoffs fall in the same week.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I wish I could ask I wish I could ask some Blackhawks playoff questions, but there's nothing to talk about with the Blackhawks.
Derek. They got to make the playoffs first, Derek.
Yeah, yeah. There's not much to say.
Before we get to hockey, anything else you guys want to talk about, Derek? Before we get to hockey,
no, I think we covered the whole draft. I mean, we were even talking OBJ, and we didn't get to talk about his Foot Locker apartment though, or house that's up for sale. Did you see all those shoes that he had? Yeah,
did you see that closet? Oh my God!
Yeah, Michael Rappaport was making fun of that thing. He goes, the only way I'd buy that place is if it came with a Foot Locker employee. So that I could
the closet's bigger than some people's homes, for God's sake. Come on.
It was crazy. But it was great talking draft with you guys, and until next time.
We appreciate you, man. Always.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Always.
Derek,
we'll see you around the start of the NFL season when we can start talking a little fantasy.
Go ahead, Ron. What do you got to say? You got to get your fingers up. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, Derek, I was putting my headphones in, and I swear to God, you were talking about CCR, Bad Moon Rising, and then I listened a little longer. It was another. It was one of
Andre.
Andre
Bad Moon Rising.
We'll keep in touch, Derek, and we'll get you
absolutely
here as the season gets closer. I promise.
Matter of fact, when season gets closer, we'll hit you up so we can get your
fantasy perspective
on fantasy.
Yes,
sounds good. Yeah,
so Elliot can show again his dominance over you in fantasy football.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't say dominance, but
he
I can have a conversation. I can keep a conversation going. I can keep a conversation going with Derek when it comes to fantasy.
Absolutely.
All right, Derek. Thank you very much
Thanks,
for joining.
Derek. Appreciate
Thanks,
it, man.
guys. Good seeing you
Take
again,
care of
Ron.
yourself and give my
Take
love to your
care.
family. Okay.
Best to the wife.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right. I
Let's
was so busy
transition
with
now
my.
to NHL
I
playoff
was
time.
so busy
which
with my
begin
cycling, I
tomorrow.
didn't get a chance to do up my background.
Yeah,
Oh,
Guy Fleur.
Guy Lafleur.
Was that the scene today in Ottawa?
Yeah,
Was it
he's
Ottawa?
lying in state in Bell Center in Montreal.
Montreal. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's almost like a
it's-
state
it's
funeral,
a
almost,
little
isn't
bit
it?
tough. Yeah, exactly. They're calling it lying in state, and there's just a steady stream of people going through. I mean, certainly for people our age, Guy Lafleur was like an elite player. He was the reason why a lot of people gravitated towards the game of hockey, and he just, he had the flowing locks, and he had that wicked shot from the top of the faceoff circle. So many goaltenders had a hard time stopping that one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I got to get my guy in here for the Islanders, Mr. Mike Bossy.
And that's the other thing. Like the hockey world has been hit here last couple of weeks. Mike Bossy and then Guy Lafleur, but for sure, you think about Mike Bossy, and automatically you're taking the 4 consecutive Stanley Cups.
And the 3 consecutive. How many consecutive seasons did he have with 50+ goals?
Oh, I think that was like 7 or 8. Like it's up there.
7 seasons, I think it was 50 goals a year.
Yeah.
Nowadays, 50 goals is
he's
like a major milestone for people.
Well, look at Austin Matthews with 60 this year.
Yeah, Austin Matthews hit 60. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Like, I mean, you look at some of these players that are putting up some big numbers, and when you've got a couple of them on one team, I mean, that's pretty huge. But you're right. Even though it's an 82-game season, 50 goals is hard to come by these days.
It is.
Mike Bossy did it back in the day when there was only like, what was it, 28 teams, 26 teams.
Yep. John left the show. I don't know if you heard him or not, but asking.
Oh, I did.
Specifically for Leafs and Edmonton Oilers propaganda leading into the playoffs. And he's not as excited about the Leafs as he is about the Oilers. Okay, in that series against the Kings. Is it maybe because he's afraid of the defending Stanley Cup champion? I'm sorry, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know the Lightning. Now, see, I'm a realist, Ron, as you know. The Lightning are not as good as they were the last 2 years. I am fully on board with that. They are not as good as they had been the last 2 years.
No, it's true. I mean, they're not up there at the top. Go ahead, Elliot.
No, I was going to say, did you want to cover things by the series or just random conversation?
Well, we can look at the series. We can go through a couple of different things. I mean, I want to get one thing off the plate today. There was a game in the NHL today. But it was not a playoff game. It was a makeup game from COVID. Yeah, Seattle had to travel up to Winnipeg, and the Winnipeg Jets defeated the Seattle Kraken 4-3. Speaking of the expansion team, the Seattle Kraken, first time in 5 years, the Vegas Golden Knights are not going to make it to the postseason.
Stay out of my head, Ron.
That's thinking huge. Yeah, no, that's huge because, I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, they came out, they were the Cinderella team in year number 1, and they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. And then they made playoff, they made the postseason appearances season after season after season. Last year, they were knocked off by the Montreal Canadiens, who went on to play the Tampa Bay Lightning, ultimately losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Vegas Golden Knights felt like that they could have had an opportunity to do that as well. And so the Vegas Golden Knights, it's really interesting because one of the things, and I'm not sure if I posted it on the Facebook page or not, but they're over salary cap heading into next season with 18 players. They don't have a full roster.
Wow, I didn't say that.
So the Vegas Golden Knights.
I say, is karma coming back at him for screwing up the Fleury situation? I still don't.
That was brutal.
It was the Marc-Andre Fleury fiasco, and now they're dealing with having Robert Leonard, and they haven't fared well with Robert Leonard.
No, they haven't. And injuries aside, I mean, that's the thing. You've got two goaltenders, or in the case of the who was it the other night had to call up an emergency backup. But anyways,
I think that was
two goaltenders.
That was the Ducks. That was the Ducks. Was it the Ducks?
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy had traveled with.
Never made that trip.
The guy had traveled with the opposing team as another one of those situations where he had traveled with the opposing team and had to go into goal for the home team at that point.
Yeah, no, exactly. So anyways, where I'm going with all of this is that, I mean, you've got to have goaltending. If you don't have goaltending, sometimes it doesn't matter how many goals you're scoring up front. You need that goaltending. Look at Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens basically went the entire season without the services of Carey Price, and we see how that turned out.
And it showed.
Yes.
Exactly. And I mean, they do have good goal scorers. I mean, last game of the season, the Florida Panthers come in and they end up losing 10-2 to the Montreal Canadiens. This is the first best team and the worst team in the NHL, and they are head-to-head, and that's how that one turned out. That's Carey Price's first win in 4 games. So
I'm sure Florida wasn't playing. I'm sure Florida wasn't playing their number ones all that long.
No, I don't think so either. But like they were cruising without question. But like their head coach said, you don't want to lose anybody by 10 something. But yeah, Florida Panthers,
and again,
they were cruising.
I go back to the Leonard Fleury situation when it comes to Vegas, and even in that playoff series, I mean, you're alternating goalies in the playoffs. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Because
you need consistency in the playoffs.
Regular season, it's a bit different. You talk to the goaltenders, you tell them, listen, you know what? You guys are both great goaltenders. We're going to swap games. There might be an occasion where we're going to put you in a back-to-back situation if there's days off in between. But other than that, expect to be swapping. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the postseason, it's an unwritten rule. You go with one goaltender.
Yeah. And Fleury deserved to be that goaltender.
I think so. Fleury is, here he is again, making it to the postseason yet again.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be with the Minnesota Wild. It's unfortunate that he went through 3 teams to get to the postseason, but fortunately for him, he goes from Vegas to Chicago and then Chicago to Minnesota. Those other 2 teams didn't make the postseason, but Minnesota does.
Yeah.
Goaltending first and foremost, because you know what? It don't matter how many goals you score. If you can't stop the other team from scoring, most times you're going to lose.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Yeah. I do worry a little bit.
All right, let me start with this. What do you think of that Leafs Lightning series, Ron?
You touched on it, okay?
Yeah.
They don't have $1 million player sitting in the closet waiting to come out and make his debut for the year in the postseason like they did last year. The Tampa Bay Lightning
from last year, right?
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning have to do it. And the thing is that, yes, there's other teams in the league that just don't want to match up with the Tampa Bay Lightning because the Tampa Bay Lightning have enough core players that have 2 Stanley Cup rings that, they potentially could do it again. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, they know they're in tough. The Toronto Maple Leafs have made postseason appearances, have failed to make postseason appearances. When they've made it to the playoffs, they've been bounced in the first or the second round, and that's as far as they've ever made it. Last year, it was the Montreal Canadiens that ended the Toronto Maple Leafs run, and that was quick. So you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs now, they've got Austin Matthews, 60-goal scorer. They've got Mitch Marner. They've got all of this supporting cast with the Toronto Maple Leafs. The goaltenders, I'm not going to say are suspect because, I mean, they've got them there. But Jack Campbell's going to have to be exceptional against the Tampa Bay Lightning. John Cooper's the coach of the TBL, and he's going to have that team ready to go, and he's going to remind them that everybody's gunning for them. They've got to get ahead of the game. So with Tampa Bay, they've got to go into Toronto, and Toronto's going to come away with that one with huge fan support. But when you're living in the center of the universe when it comes to hockey, especially in Canada, that can be a double-edged sword. If the Toronto Maple Leafs stub their toe coming out of the dressing room and onto the ice, this could quickly turn sour for them real quick because everybody in Toronto is nervous. Everybody in Toronto knows that this script has been written and rewritten and written again, and they have not made it deep into the postseason.
And now they're coming in as kind of clear-cut underdogs against the two-time defending stand.
But they've got home ice against the Stanley Cup champions, so I mean, but they're still considered underdogs.
Yeah, but they just lost 8-1 to those guys.
That's true
just
too.
A week
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just a few days ago, they got trounced by Tampa.
That's the other thing, though. You have to look at it and go, well, how important was that game? It was important. Don't get me wrong. Everybody knows that's a potential because that's a potential first-round matchup. Back then, that was still a potential first-round matchup.
And they didn't.
So you got to go into it strong. The thing is, Tampa Bay Lightning gets to go in with no pressure. Because they're the visiting team. They only need to win one, and they take home ice advantage away from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And Toronto goes in with all the pressure because of their history.
Yeah, exactly. So the Toronto Maple Leafs have to come out gangbusters. I still have Toronto circled as my pick for the first round over the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And I would not be surprised if it happens. I mean, the Lightning have been underperforming all season long. They've lost games they should not have lost.
But this is their time, though. This is their time.
The playoffs? The playoffs are where they shine the most. You are correct, Elliot. Yes.
Okay.
Last year, they were in a position where people were wondering if they could make it all the way through. And they overcame, and they did what they did. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because they got Kucherov back for the playoffs as opposed to not having him in the regular season all season long. So Kucherov was a lot of the difference maker in last year's playoffs. They don't have that.
But the goalie was a huge difference.
Well, Vasilevsky is one of the best goalies in the NHL. He has not been as sharp this season as he was last season by far.
Well, okay, but let me tell you. Let me ask you this and see if this has you can lend any credence to it. You win 2 Stanley Cups. How hyped up are you in the third season? You're just wanting to get through the season so that you can pursue the cup one more time.
For the three-peat.
Right. So whatever happened during the regular season, this is the second season. This is a totally different ballgame now.
Well, everything changes when it comes to the playoffs, especially in the NHL. It just like you flip a switch.
And he has proven that he is a top-flight goaltender.
Yes, he has.
When the chips are down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
he's been off most of the season, though.
A year older, though, I do have to worry about him. I mean, the problem is that you look at Carey Price, and everybody thought that he was just getting into his prime. He's now looking at potential retirement. So you look at Vasilevsky, and there you have a goaltender who's got 2 cups. He's not going to be totally upset if it doesn't happen for a third time. So what you got to do is you got to look at the supporting cast. Do you have lots of young players that are looking for advice inside the dressing room? And the answer is no, not on the Tampa Bay Lightning squad. So all you've got is you've got a bunch of guys showing off their 2 rings saying, yeah, we can get another ring. We can get another ring. But at the end of the day, you don't have anybody who's hungry for it. Corey Perry, I mean, he's not the young player. Corey Perry's the only guy that's hungry in the Tampa Bay Lightning dressing room.
Well, and also
He's
we
been
got
chasing that
Maroons.
Stanley Cup.
Maroons got 3 rings in a row as well. So, I mean, that's another guy, you know what I'm saying? Because he won with St. Louis before coming to Tampa Bay. So,
yeah, no, exactly.
And, you know, I'm not as excited about this year's team as I was the last 2 years. I really am not. If it happens, I'll be ecstatic. If it happens, I'll be ecstatic. But I'm not counting on it. I'm not, you know, I'm not as optimistic as I was the last 2 seasons. But I'll still stand here and watch Game 1 tomorrow night, Monday night, 7:30 on ESPN. I'll be watching because it's a great matchup. I'm looking forward to the matchup in that series.
So because of my New York roots, my excitement is leaning towards the New York Rangers right now.
As opposed to
I'm
the
going
Islanders?
to touch on the New York Rangers in just a second, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to use a segue of injuries because of Alexander Ovechkin is still a question mark for Game 1. Florida Panthers are the President's Trophy team. That in itself, I don't know why, but it's almost like winning the Jack Adams Trophy for being the Coach of the Year.
It's a curse.
It's the curse.
Look at the Lightning. 3 years ago, the Lightning had the President's Cup, and they lost.
To Columbus
in the first round. Yes,
four straight.
And so, if Alexander Ovechkin shows up on the ice in Game 1, for sure, no later than Game 2, Florida Panthers are not getting out of the first round.
Yeah, Ov is just. I love Ovechkin. I think he's one of the most. I think he's the most popular player in the NHL. I love the guy. He's great on and off the ice. I love him.
You want a definition of hungry. A few years ago, we saw that out of Alexander Ovechkin.
Yep.
Now he's gray hair. He's still got that, he's still got the hard, heavy hit. He's still got the hard, heavy shot. But at the end of the day, Alexander Ovechkin learned so much by winning that Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. And I think that the team is going to be one of those ones that is a little bit quieter around the postseason. But that's a good thing. You think back, what was it, 8-9 years ago, the Los Angeles Kings snuck in and they managed to squeeze out that first round victory, and then they just cruised. The most important round is the first round, because you have to build on that, and you build on it, and you build on it, and you build on it. So for me, the Washington Capitals and the Toronto Maple Leafs are 2 teams that are going in tough. And if they get through the first round, that's going to be extremely interesting when it starts getting into the second and the third rounds.
Yeah.
Now, real quickly, I'm only going to touch on this, briefly. Carolina Hurricanes is another team that finished top of the squad, and I have a total respect for Rod Brind'Amour. But there's an unknown with Boston, and I don't know what it is. It's in the water. It's in the tea parties. I don't know what it is. But Boston seems to be able to get the job done. And I've got Boston as my dark horse in that first round over the Carolina Hurricanes.
Moving to the West, the favorite.
Hang on. We got one. We
talked enough about your damn Tampa Bay Lightning.
I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ron.
Yeah, no. So I want to hear what Elliot's thoughts are on potentially the difference maker in this entire series is not Sidney Crosby, it's Shesterkin.
The goalie.
Yeah, Shesterkin has been unbelievable.
Yeah, he has been. I mean, I look, I follow hockey about as closely as I follow chess or, badminton tournaments.
Or cricket.
Or cricket. You know what I'm saying? I probably watch more. What's that one that they play up in Canada?
Curling.
Curling, yeah, there you go.
Curling.
I've probably been exposed to more curling than I have been to NHL. But yeah, I mean, that's all I read about when it comes to the Rangers is their goalie. Yeah,
and you know what? There has been proven times. Tim Thomas with the Boston Bruins in 2011. You look at Marc-Andre Fleury. You know what? It allows Sidney Crosby an opportunity to get through. Vegas Golden Knights don't make the postseason in their first year without Marc-Andre Fleury.
No, absolutely not. And we see how the decline went once Marc-Andre Fleury was gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already talked about that, but where I'm going with Shesterkin is the fact that this is a goaltender who's like young, hot, and he's in there. Cam Ward was another one years ago. Like I could probably pull up a number of goaltenders that never won the Conn Smythe Trophy, but are the reason why that team won the Stanley Cup. And for me, I'm not a big fan of the New York Rangers or the Boston Bruins, but I can see the New York Rangers with Shesterkin doing a great, a solid run to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I like it. I'll buy it.
All right, so now we got about 10 minutes, so we'll get into the West. The West is
we can run over. Hey, if we run over, it's no big deal, Ron.
Yes, no big deal, Ron. So take your time.
Take as much time as you need to be as
thorough as possible. I want to focus on the favorite, which is the Colorado Avalanche, and then the Edmonton Oilers, which I like as well.
Okay, so let's start in the Central Division then. Of course, there's 4 divisions, 2 conferences. The 2 conferences, everybody knows you get 8 teams from each conference, and they play the first 2 rounds against each other before you start getting any kind of crossovers. So the division matchup with the Central Division is really interesting because with the wild card spots, you could potentially end up with 5 teams out of one division and 3 out of the other. And that's exactly what's happened in the West. The Colorado Avalanche get top seed in the Central Division. And then you go down that list from the Central Division. You've got Minnesota with 113 points, St. Louis with 109. Dallas is a wild card team with 98 points, and Nashville is a wild card team with 97 points. So this is very interesting because the Central Division teams will have played each other a little bit more than they've played any other division. And in the Pacific Division, you have 2 Canadian teams in the Calgary Flames, the Edmonton Oilers, and the odd one out is the Los Angeles Kings. So going back and looking at the West, the Colorado Avalanche get matched up with the 5th place team from their Central Division, 8th in the West, the Nashville Predators. The Nashville Predators managed to squeak in simply because the Vegas Golden Knights could not score a goal. So I worry about the Nashville Predators for obvious reasons against the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche... Well, I've got them written down as I don't like sweeping and predicting sweeps, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the Colorado Avalanche going 4-0 out of the first round. They're really too strong on home ice.
They're really
32. Good. They're 32, 5-4 on home ice.
Yeah, they're really good too. I mean, they're not just
they're starting at home. They're not going to have a problem. I'm going to jump one series, and I'm going to go to the Calgary Flames and the Dallas Stars because that's the other wild card team is the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars have tripped their way into the postseason in these last 10 games or so. Well, they really have.
They stumbled.
They've given away wins. They've had a hard time. Well, and I apologize to Ken in advance, right? But,
he's already upset over the Cowboys.
Yeah, there you go. The Calgary Flames are just too strong without having huge name players. But you've got Mangiapane. You've got you've got the guy that's going to end up being likely the Conn Smythe Trophy if the Calgary Flames go the distance in Gaudreau, Johnny Gaudreau. And the thing about the Calgary Flames, they've had to play the Edmonton Oilers lots. So if they end up having to play the Edmonton Oilers at any point in this postseason, that's going to be the most interesting series going. Because you've got Connor McDavid, who picks up the Art Ross Trophy yet again. But we'll touch on the Edmonton Oilers a little bit more because he's definitely got the helpers with him with Leon Draisaitl. But I worry about Dallas. And I mean, it is too bad because they truly have ended up just stumbling into the postseason. That they finished 7th is a surprise, really.
And
So
John
now I'm
can't
going to
stand
go.
Calgary either.
Yeah.
John,
So now I'm going to go back to Marc-Andre Fleury.
Minnesota against St. Louis.
Marc-Andre Fleury has now suited up with the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild have actually been looking really good. Now, the thing with Marc-Andre Fleury, he does have Stanley Cup rings, but what he has is he has an immense experience level and understanding of how you have to improve your game in the postseason if you're going to go any distance. St. Louis Blues, give them credit. They've got the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. But this one here is going to be one of those ones that you're just going to find out that another goaltender has stolen the show and allowed the snipers that can score to score. The Minnesota Wild are 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. St. Louis Blues, no slouch. They're 7-2-1. And Craig Berube will have that team fired up. But I just feel like St. Louis has kind of been in too many of those games where too many goals have been given up here lately. And that's going to be the difference maker. You can't allow the goals in the postseason.
Right.
Because everybody's defensively minded, and it starts with the goaltender and it goes out from there. So I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild, and then that puts us through to the Edmonton Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings, which is not necessarily the last one, but the last one we're going to look at. Excuse me for a second. So anyways, the Edmonton Oilers finished second in the Pacific Division with 104 points. That's 5 better than the Los Angeles Kings, 99. Sorry. Still getting over a little bit of a cold from last month. The Edmonton Oilers are extremely deep. The top lines, the top 2, the top 3 lines can just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And the Edmonton Oilers have, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, perhaps one of the most elite younger players in the NHL right now in Connor McDavid. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be a very tough team all the way through the playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers stand the chance to be maybe Canada's best opportunity. They come from what's known as the City of Champions. That has faded into the past, obviously, because they haven't won anything at that level since Wayne Gretzky left the city.
Right.
But the Edmonton Oilers, the fan base is going to be strong. It's going to be raucous as always. I think the haunting of always winning the draft is over. A number of those number 1 picks have long since been moved to other teams, allowing Edmonton to try to develop their players on their own instead of ending up with super young players. So the Edmonton Oilers have gained age and experience and depth over the last couple of years.
Right.
And they don't have the number of players on their roster that have been stung by not getting through to the postseason or being told that they are a junior team playing with the majors. And that was the past for the Edmonton. So if I'm wrong, it's going to be another case of the Toronto Maple Leafs, where year after year after year they make it to the first 2 rounds, and that's as far as they can go.
Right.
So there's kind of my picks. So
all right, what is your
had a chance to think?
Well, I like believe it or not, I do like the Panthers in the East. I don't know that. I mean, Florida, it has shown all season long they're a powerhouse. again, like you said, if Obi comes back in time, the Capitals can give him a run in the first round. But the Panthers have shown over and over again how good they are. And again, I know the postseason is the postseason, meaning it's a whole new season basically. Things change in the playoffs. So I hope the Lightning can get past their Leafs, and if they do, then I think they're going to do well. If they cannot get past Toronto, I'm not going to be disappointed because they've got back-to-back trophies, so I'm okay with that. As far as the West is concerned,
he's hedging his bets.
Yes, I am. As far as the West is concerned, I really like Edmonton. I really like the Oilers. Colorado is the team to beat, but I like the Oilers because of the combination of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I like that 1-2 punch. I really do. They work great together, and it's fantastic. So, but I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I'm going to watch tomorrow night's game against the Leafs. I'm going to cross my fingers, hope it works out. Austin Matthews is a force, and he is the best player, as far as I'm concerned, right now in the NHL. Austin Matthews is, as far as I'm concerned. We've got our stars. We've got Stammer, and we got Kucherov and Vasilevsky playing, but Austin Matthews is a force that has to be dealt with, and he's going to be a problem. So we'll see what happens. Who's your pick,
Scott,
for
so real quickly? Yeah, who's my pick? Obviously, the heart wants to see Toronto and Edmonton make it through to the postseason.
Of course it does. Of course it does. With the Canadian roots, of course it does.
Yeah,
honestly.
But if I was being, like I said, if I was being kind of taking the heart out of it, looking at past experiences and what we've seen in the playoffs and the different players that come to play, it's never the guys that got the Art Ross Trophy. It's the supporting cast.
Right.
And so for me, I look at the New York Rangers and I say, don't underestimate the New York Rangers to find a way to win in front of that goaltender and find other people on their roster to score goals. So the New York Rangers, again, like I said, I'm not a New York Rangers fan, but they are a scary good team right now with that goaltender.
That you are objective, yes.
Well, I try to be for sure. And on the other side, there is just something about the Colorado Avalanche. And again, like I said, I'd love to see the Edmonton Oilers get through. But the Colorado Avalanche, when you look at the bracket, they tend to have a little bit of an easier route to the postseason. So for me, it would be New York and Colorado.
Okay. What do you think, Elliot? Any ideas?
Again, I'm gonna root for New York, obviously.
Right. Obviously.
I can't discount a defending Stanley Cup champion. I don't think that the Lightning came too close to being bumped out last season.
Right. They did.
By the Islanders.
Yep.
Okay.
That was a great series, by the way.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, after time, it starts catching up. And I just don't see the Lightning making it all the way through. If they make it past Toronto, I'd be somewhat surprised. But it is Toronto, and their history can prove to be otherwise.
Right.
And as far as in the West, it's going to come down to, I think, the Oilers and the Avalanche.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. As far as the West is concerned, Oilers and the Avalanche are the teams they're going to meet in the finals, conference finals. What else you got, Ron? Anything else you want to talk about? Bring up anything?
Yeah, just kind of making a couple of notes here. No, I think for the most part everything is all good. It's unfortunate the losses that we've seen here the last little while. First games are tomorrow. May 10th is the start of the draft for the NHL. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's not sorry. I'll qualify that. We're going to find out who wins the lottery for the draft.
Right. The draft doesn't start the 10th. Who wins the lottery, right?
After the season.
Yeah. So the lottery, just real quickly, the lottery is been changed, so you can't move up more than 10 spots. So essentially, a team like the Vancouver Canucks, who are 15th, can't get any higher than 6th. If you're 11th, you can get if you're 11th, you could potentially get the first pick overall. The chances are, mathematically, it should be the Montreal Canadiens that get that first pick.
Because they were the worst team in the league this year.
Unfortunately, yes, they were.
I know you're a Canadiens fan. All right.
Yeah. Well, there was a few teams that challenged for that position. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes only had 57 points. The Seattle Kraken only had 60. But for sure, 55 points is the best golf score you're going to get in a game of hockey.
Ron, I want to say thank you very much for coming on this week. I really appreciate it. We'll get with you again or throughout the playoffs. We'll get you back.
Wait. I was just getting ready to ask. Ron, I know this is a little premature, but can we entertain the hopes that you can join us to update the playoffs for a half hour Sunday nights during the playoffs?
It should be doable. Okay. Unfortunately, because I was a little sick earlier in the winter, I ended up canceling my trip to New York for the bike race. So I won't be going anywhere. So I might as well join you guys for a little half-hour sports chat.
Works for me.
Sounds great.
Sounds fantastic. We'll get if we got John and Ken on the show, it makes it even better. So we'll reach out to you throughout the week to see what your schedule is, and if you can join us on Sunday nights, we'll bring you in here for a half an hour of playoff hockey
recaps.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And if anybody's using my predictions to make some picks, gambling,
don't do it.
Know your limit and play within it.
And don't blame me if you lose.
Right. All right. We're going to close it out for another Sunday night of the Sports Nerds. I want to thank my guests, Derek Lofland and Ron Gallo, for being here. On behalf of my co-hosts, Mr. John G. Olson, Mr. Big E. Lamba, Elliot, and, of course, Ken, who was ill this evening. I want to thank everybody that showed up. We did have a few viewers on Vim as well this week, as well as we are as high as 3 or 4 on Facebook, so I'm all right with that. But regardless, thank you everybody for showing up tonight. We will be back.
About the replay.
Yeah, we will be back next Sunday night, 7:30 Eastern time for the Sports Nerds. And with that, Elliot, please play the outro.
Peace. Nerd Nation, another Sunday episode of the Sports Nerd Show in the books, and we're actually still alive to tell about it. Now, on behalf of our host, Scott, the Sports Nerd, right? John Olson, Ken Koslow, 2 of our local members in the Brand Pack, and yes, me, Big E, the entire pack would once again like to thank you all for participating with us in the best 90 minutes of sports smack talk today. So until next Sunday night, dear nation, we want to leave you with a quick PSA. Please stay safe. Please practice social distancing. And for heaven's sake, please wear a blessed mask. You all just got hit with a pack rant from the Rank Pack. And with that, fellas, we are out.